Kirstyn, thanks for coming on today to discuss your Jan 6 experience and how life's been after that. If you don't mind, can we start off even before the weeks before or whatever? And were you have you always been conservative, or did Trump change your mind on that, or how did you get to where we're at today?
I mean, honestly, I had never voted before Trump ran in 2016. I kind of hated politics. I wasn't a very vocal person as far as throwing myself out there. Young, naive, whatever, didn't really pay attention to certain things until it really started hitting home for my family and, DCYF being a major corruption is kind of what got me started. And then, just seeing the hatred that they had for this man and, saying he's a racist, he's a homophobe. And, it's mind blowing that even to this day, I'm still telling people like, listen, I'm a lesbian. I'm a gay conservative. I voted for the man 3 times. Like, you think you would listen to us a little bit more. Like, he has gay weddings at Mar-a-Lago. He has gay people in his cabinet. He's speaking out, trying to keep gay people safe in other countries. I'm like, you guys are just, in denial. But yeah, so then I started doing a bunch of flag waves. I mean, I was flag waving over 5 days a week, setting up Trump convoys, some of which he's actually retruthed. Um, just doing my part in educating people. And then January 6th came along.
What kind of was going through your mind in the lead up to that? What made you decide to go to that?
Pretty much every rally that I had been to was so patriotic and peaceful and meet a lot of great patriots. So I actually went to DC for the Stop the Steal a couple weeks before January 6th. And then I was like, well, you know what? We got to go listen to our president speak. And, the election being stolen was a huge thing. I got punished harsher for January 6th for me continuously saying that. I've never wavered from that. I think that we can't really continue on as a country, and 2024 shouldn't have happened without 2020 being fixed. But here we are.
I hear you. So did you go like a couple days before and like sightsee like a lot of people did, or did you just show up on the 6th?
No, so I went the day before, hung out, met some people in the hotel, and then got up really early to make it down there. And I mean, the streets were still packed. We still couldn't get anywhere close to him. Yeah, and it was, people say, do you regret January 6th? And, I don't like going through what I had to go through.
Right.
But I wouldn't change it. It was one of the most peaceful days of my life. I mean, we stood shoulder to shoulder, not going to the bathroom, nothing, from like 5 o'clock in the morning till what? 2 when Trump was done speaking, 1:30.
Right.
We met amazing people. There was no fights, no burning, riots. I mean, it was quite the experience.
Right on. So you were definitely at the Ellipse, and then you made it to the Capitol, I'm gathering.
Yes.
Right on. Do you want to discuss what you saw or witnessed at the Capitol at all?
I mean, I didn't witness much. So I happened to be on the left side, way back, hanging out in a tree. It was kind of our meeting point because there was a bunch of us like, hey, we get separated. This is where we meet. I was actually in the tree. I climbed the tree and I was recording videos and pictures. I had no intentions on going into the Capitol. Wasn't until, my co-defendant took off. I go looking for her. She's bound and determined to go in. I make a quick decision, caring about the safety of my friend. We go in through open doors, walking through the red ropes, never touched anybody. Her, on the other hand, before I found her, she was in the middle where all the cops and people were fighting with protesters. And she also gave over that footage and helped indict other people and spread a bunch of lies and took a deal. And, we're sitting here like, wow, and you got the same part in as the rest of us. I think there's been certain circumstances where I know I'm not the only January 6er. I might be the only one more vocal to speak about it because the community is kind of at each other's throats with fairness and, who's done what.
Right.
But I think it's vital to know all the January 6ers that snitched on their co-defendants, turned against their family members, lied to save themselves. And I think, it'd be crazy to say that some of us aren't bitter that we served prison time, had far worse conditions, and got the same pardon as everybody else.
Yeah. They had lighter sentences too, I'm guessing, if they cooperated and
Oh yeah.
all that.
Yeah, never saw a jail cell.
You were sentenced to 12 months, right? But you only served 8 months, is that right? Or
So I was sentenced to 11.
11?
And I served 8 because of the First Step Act, because I programmed and took classes. Which in all actuality, I should have gotten out sooner, but the BOP likes to play around with people's time. And so, yeah. And I got an 11-month sentence realistically because of personal things between me and my judge. I mean, that wasn't even what probation recommended.
Jeez.
He actually gave me more time because he criticized the speech that I gave in my sentencing, which I'd recommend anybody reading.
Okay.
2, because he went off the record illegally and watched a podcast that I did and criticized me for wearing a t-shirt that said, "End the silence, save the children." And that, I deserve a harsher sentence because I'm detached from reality, that there are politicians involved in sex trafficking.
Maybe he's detached from reality.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Like when you got back, let's go, if we can go back a little bit. When you got back from January 6th, did you notice like people following you or anything like that? Or did they come and investigate you fairly quickly?
No, the first thing I noticed was my Facebook got taken.
Right on.
And then, we hear about all these people getting arrested, and I kind of just was waiting for it to happen, I guess. I mean, not much else you can do.
Right.
Then the FBI went to my good friend's house and started questioning her on why she didn't go, what she knows about that day, threatened her with obstruction. Then went to my mother's house. My mother told them to get off of her property. And then, so it was January 18th of 22 was when I actually got arrested.
Right on.
They definitely tapped into my phone, used my local PD to entrap me on a kind of speeding to pull me over, and then swarmed my boss's house with FBI. And
jeez.
Yeah.
Did you lose your job over this?
Oh yeah.
Right on.
Yep. A lot of customers I had either worked for the federal government or saw the news saying that, I was a violent insurrectionist, domestic terrorist, that, FBI tipsters called in and said I was a member of the Proud Boys and that I broke a window, none of which is true, but they all ran with it. So,
Right.
my reputation's been ruined.
Were you even friends with any Proud Boys? Or, I mean, I don't know if you want to really disclose that or not, but I mean, were you tied to them at all?
No. So actually, I have, defended the Proud Boys. Actually, I do know a few in New Hampshire. But I really didn't even know what the Proud Boys were till kind of January 6th. actually Stop the Steal, bring it back to there, because that was when I had my appreciation for the Proud Boys and learning, about their group. It was me and four girls walking down the streets when it was dark out after the rallies and gatherings. And that's when Antifa was attacking people. And I mean, we were seeing people come out of alleyways with their blood dripping everywhere. I mean, so we were trying to make it back to our hotel. And a group of Proud Boys actually came up to us and asked us where we were going and actually walked us back to our hotel so that we got there safe. So, I don't say that, hey, I'm not a Proud Boy because I'm demonizing them or like it's insulting. It's just, you can't be a woman and be a Proud Boy. That's just not how their group operates that I know of anyways.
I hear you.
So, that I just needed to make that correction. It's in a lot of news articles, which also led them to say I was part of a terrorist group, although we all know the Proud Boys are not terrorists. But yeah, there's been a lot of lies and misleading stories put out there. And I feel like trying to scream from the rooftops like we have been for 4 years, like, this is a lie, this is a lie, this is a lie, and people who aren't in our situation don't really know. Like, it's easy for someone to be like, oh, suck it up, go get a job at McDonald's, get over it. You went to prison, move on from it. Like, if you haven't been in our shoes for the last 4 years and watched our entire families ripped apart, our friends, our jobs, houses, marriages, children, going to prison, going to solitary confinement, what all of that actually does to a person. So I think, the American people can be a little ignorant when it comes to actually understanding what we're all going through, the depression, the PTSD, even what prison robs you from as far as, your self-confidence. You're locked up being this useless nothing, in a cage, and you're used to doing manual labor or fixing things. And it's like, you come out of prison with this fog. I don't know how else to explain it. It's like a trauma reaction of, it affects you, it's embedded in you, but like certain things, like I'll be having conversations, you try to remember a certain person's name or like little things like that. And it's like, your brain's clouded. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's been a challenging road, to say the least.
I hear you. So you pretty much covered how life's been after J6. Probably financially, lawyers and stuff like that have drained you, if I had to guess.
Yeah, it's been traveling back and forth to DC. It's hiring and firing. I've actually fired 4 attorneys.
Jeez.
Yeah, and just, trying to stay afloat before I went to prison is realistically where most of my donations came from, was before prison. And, we're still struggling. Some of us don't have the options to up and move. Some of us, New Hampshire hasn't been that great to me as far as, the local law enforcement to, being on the border of Massachusetts, and we know how blue that is. So, I've gotten hate mail. I've had people, key my truck. I've had people drive by my house screaming traitor every day.
Jeez.
It hasn't been easy.
I guess I had a different perception of New Hampshire. I thought it was a pretty conservative place.
Being born and raised here, I thought so myself. But no, we've kind of been invaded by Massachusetts. I wouldn't say elected, because I think New Hampshire has a lot of fraud in our elections. How we, voted, how we got blue this time around in so many different seats is mind blowing to me, considering we're the state that has, no sales tax,
Right.
no seatbelt, no car insurance, no helmet when you ride a bike. You don't need a permit to carry a firearm. You know, our
Uh-huh.
motto is live free or die, and
Yeah.
it's become quite controlled.
Oh,
Oh,
your
there goes
flag
the flag.
fell. You want me to take a time out so you can put it up?
Yeah, you're good.
All right. I guess, you know, I always ask, would you do it again if you could go back in time knowing what you know now?
Yeah, I might have evaluated the people I went with a little bit more.
Right on. I hear you. Well,
But no, I mean I've stood on principle of the whole thing, you know, since the start. I mean, there were J6ers that have lawsuits against Trump. There are J6ers that tried to, you know, subpoena him and turn against him, and, you know, rather than really having morals on why you even went to January 6th to begin with,
right.
you know, just take it for what it is, stand up for, you know, the hard things. I mean, it wasn't easy for me to stand up. It hasn't been easy for me. You know, I've been bullied my whole life about being gay. I mean, the last time I walked into a church years ago, I was basically shunned. Um, Now it's like it's kind of a slap in the face. It's like now you see all these churches have pride flags, and you know, all of a sudden being told your whole life you're a sin and God doesn't love you and you're gay, and to now all of a sudden it's like I don't know. We've gone completely left with a lot of things. It's like we skipped over the basic gay rights and went to like lunatic style of, you know, transgender, people identifying as cats. And, you know what I mean? It's just,
No,
it's been
I get that
insane.
part.
And, you know, I remember when I was on pretrial, I was actually protesting drag queen story time.
Right on.
And, you know, the news articles, you know, would say things like, oh, you know, she should feel ashamed to be gay. I don't even think you're gay. It's like, I should be ashamed to be gay because I'm standing up against grooming children. Like, I didn't have Pride Day in school. You know, like
Right.
nobody was teaching me about being gay. I think that if you're gay, it's a natural thing that comes out. It doesn't need to be taught in school, shoved down your throat. I don't know why people think that it's appealing to bring your child to a bookstore of a man dressed up as a woman. And you know, a lot of these videos we've seen, they're twerking for them and dancing. I mean, I just don't understand what happened to a lot of Americans, like fathers. Like I guess we don't have a lot of masculine men anymore, is what, you know, most fathers would have never allowed that. And it's like the amount of dads that I was seeing carrying in their kids to this drag queen book time was like, what is going on in this country? Like, you know, you could be playing outside with your kid, you could be teaching your kid how to build something, or you could be home reading a story.
Right.
You know, it's been a wild ride. So, I mean, it's been hard for me to just stand out as it is. Just, you know, I mean, look at Scott Pressler and, you know, the internet's going wild, you know, harassing him and criticizing him for being gay. And, you know, look how much Trump appreciates him. You know,
Right.
it's just for the left, it's been, oh, gay this, gay that, you know, pride flags at state houses, and then it's like you're a gay conservative, and no, that doesn't fit the narrative.
Horrible. You're a horrible person if you're a gay conservative, right? It's basically how they treat you. I know I discussed that I was going to possibly interview you, and your sexual orientation was brought up because that lady is also lesbian or homosexual, whatever's the appropriate word, I guess. And she almost got mad at me because she could not believe how someone with that lifestyle would support Trump.
Yeah, I mean, I get it all the time. I talk to people at like local places, and you know, a lot of them are shocked. They're like, wait a minute, you're a Trump supporter? And then they're like, wait a minute, you're a January 6th? And I'm just
Right.
like, yeah, you know, ever since Trump ran, I mean, there's pictures of me in newspapers, You know, I usually have like 7 flags on my truck every day.
Right on.
It's you know, I've never stopped supporting him. I've actually met Trump twice in
Right on.
person. Um, you know, like I said, we hosted a lot of events. You know, we educated a lot of people, and you know, I think Trump kind of owes his January 6ers a little something more than a pardon. And I hope he gets up with the times here and realizes that a lot of January 6ers kept the heat off of him. And the January 6 cases that he beat, we all did the time.
Right.
And I think at minimum, you know, he deserves to invite us. We deserve to be invited to Mar-a-Lago. I think there
Right on.
needs to be a January 6th reunion. And I think there needs to be some serious restitution. I mean, he knows that our life's been ruined for 4 years. He knows how long it takes for a lawsuit to go through. I
Right.
mean, we deserve to have, you know, compensation for everything we've gone through. And I hope that that is in the very near future for him and his team. I do know that he could order the federal government to pay us restitution. You know, something immediate, knowing that we're waiting for all of these lawsuits to actually take off.
Has the pardon had any real immediate effect on your life?
No, and you know, when people are like, "Oh, you should be grateful you're pardoned," listen, it's not about not being grateful. Okay, it's the simple, it's the reality of it. I got the same pardon as people who had more serious charges. I got the same pardon, and I went to prison, and other people didn't go to prison. You know, really, the all the pardon did for me was take me off probation early.
Right on.
3 months. That's it. So, I mean, it's already been 4 years of my life.
Right.
I've already done my prison time. I filed an appeal. Unfortunately, mine was ruled on, unlike a lot of these other people. So, basically, from my understanding, in asking the community about it, you know, is that if you weren't convicted or you weren't sentenced, your charges got dismissed. If you've already gone to prison, lost your appeal, did your time, we just got a pardon, which I don't think is fair. You know, we were calling for a pardon of innocence for the simple fact that pardoning us is basically, hey, you're guilty, we forgive you.
Right.
And that kind of defeats the people like me who took it to trial, who filed an appeal, who fought it all the way to the end to kind of just get, oh, well,
Yeah.
here's your piece of paper. It's not off your record. You know, I mean, it doesn't change the news articles. It doesn't change what people think about it. It doesn't change when you do a background check on me. So,
Right.
you know, I wish that things would have been done differently. And I'm hoping that he still has that opportunity to review certain things, and, you know, we get this taken off of our record and, you know, fairly compensated for everything that we've been through. I mean, what a slap in the face that we watched the Summer of Love, BLM. They've won over 3 successful lawsuits for millions of dollars for excessive force used by the police. And think about it, they weren't shot in the face and had their cheek blown out, or, you know, firing on people that were praying. I
Right.
mean, they were getting dealt with because they were burning down police stations and cop cars. So to think like, here we are suffering, they actually never went to prison, and they've won multiple millions of dollars in lawsuits. I mean,
Crazy.
that when you think about it like that and you break it down for people, you know, it becomes less of, oh, wow, like you're ungrateful for, you know, getting a pardon. No, it's just when you really break down all the facts,
Right.
you know, a lot of these things have been a slap in the face to us. And, you know, it hasn't been fair treatment on both sides of the aisle.
Yeah. How do you feel about the FBI's agents' names not being released? Does that upset you, or do you feel that's a good idea? Or
Well, here's the thing. This is what I suggested on X. Okay. You have every January 6er who has been attacked by the FBI. that knows their names. How simple is it for all the January 6ers to come up with the list of all the FBI agents who raided our houses, who stalked us, who did all of the things? We don't need some judge to say, oh, their safety. No one cared about our safety. Nobody cared when we were being doxxed, when we were being, when guns were being pointed at people's children and, dogs were being killed and people miscarried their babies. So you chose to work for the FBI. You chose to stand for the corruption. Your name shouldn't be hidden. And I think we need to just go around it. And, it's freedom of speech. It's in all of our paperwork. There's nothing to hide. Right. Every January 6er should just find a point of contact, send all the names. There's the database. Yeah. I mean, we may not know everyone that hid in the office and didn't make your face known behind the scenes, but between 1,600 people, I'm pretty sure we have a hefty long list.
Yeah, for sure. How'd the J6 committee's preemptive pardon make you feel?
Well, I think we're going to see that the Supreme Court is going to overrule it. For one, it's unconstitutional. For two, there should be never a preemptive pardon. I mean, how can you pardon somebody and go back 10 years for crimes that they've never been charged with? Right. I mean, if that doesn't scream, I'm guilty, I don't know what doesn't. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, for sure. Is there any messages that you want to get out there that I haven't brought up or anything like that?
No, I would just, to all the parents out there that haven't yet stood up, please get out there, go to these school board meetings, go to care about your local elections. I noticed a lot of people in this last election cared more about voting for the president and ignored all the other local things. And as you can see, Trump's being blocked in every different direction. People think that the president has more power than he actually does in certain aspects. So when it comes to your state laws and all of that, your sheriff, your Congress people, your senators, all these things matter. And I would just hope that after watching what Scott's done and what all these people have done, traveling the world, educating people, and really exposing things for what they are, I really hope that people start to take a stand. I know that January 6th scared a lot of Americans. Like, if I stand up, look what's going to happen to me. I just think that we need a lot of change in this country, and it's up to the American people for that change. I mean, you need to stand up for your rights, and just continue to make America great again.
Do you feel like you get any hate on the conservative side for your lifestyle, or have you been accepted for the most part?
For the most part.
Right on.
I mean, it's definitely a lot less hate than the Democrat side, which they're the ones that stand for the DEI and the inclusion and, all these things. But when it comes to which political side of the fence you're on, then all of a sudden you're trash and you're not gay. And
it's kind of, it's crazy. Well, I mean, it's crazy to me, maybe not to some other people, but it seems wild, But I guess maybe, I don't know, sometimes it seems like the left is just so angry and they just hate people so much who are like them, but not like them at the same time.
Yeah, they are the party full of hate. That's for sure.
I hear you. If you were to look back on this in like 20 years, is there a message that you hope your story shares to the world?
Yeah, never give up. Right. God picked some of the strongest January 6ers to go to prison. And now look, now you have January 6ers that went to every prison in this country that is loud and proud and is not going to bend You've already taken everything from us. You've put us in the worst conditions. So, you know, at least all the kids in my life, I could say that, I stood up when it was needed, and, I stood up for your rights, your future. And I would just tell people that, you can't give up, even when it gets hard, even when they come at you with the threats. I mean, they threatened all of us. They made it very hard to stand up and not be persecuted for it. But, never wavered, never gave up, and just keep speaking out. Even when I was advised, stop doing shows, stop doing podcasts, stop being on the front page of the newspaper, like you're drawing too much attention. It's like, no, because that attention needs to be, it needs to be out there on the front. People need to take a stand. And if more Americans took a stand, January 6th prosecutions wouldn't have happened the way that they did. Unfortunately, too many Americans are sitting at home on social media, too afraid to speak out, and would get in the bus that the government pulls up to the front of your house. Here, we're taking you to safety, And unfortunately, if you're not awake by now, I've kind of lost hope for you.
No, I get that. I mean, if you haven't seen it by now, right? I get that. Has the mainstream media contacted you a lot after this event to get your side?
I've done some media, interviews before prison, after prison. Actually, I just did a couple after my pardon, and I made sure I recorded it on my phone on the sidelines because, I've made it very clear that you guys like to manipulate things that we say.
Right.
And, it's crazy because every media outlet that's reached out to me is not conservative.
Really?
They twist your words. They want to say, oh, look at these violent insurrectionists. Now they're free. And, it's
a lot of hit
I
pieces.
don't know. There needs to be definitely some new news outlets.
I hear you.
Promoting the actual truth of things. Because every time you turn on the TV, it's just, I mean, for the people who know and are awake, I mean, it makes you want to smash your TV. Like,
yeah.
And then you go and you're sitting at a local bar or a restaurant, you're listening to people talk and how much they hate Trump and how much corruption and abuse of power. And it's like, so you didn't care that your money was being thrown away to condoms and transgender rats and mice. And, you complain that they take too much money and then they expose the fraud and it's, he's a dictator. He's ruining the country. It's like, you just can't make these people happy.
I hear you.
At some point, we might want to consider dividing the country into blue and red because.
Where do you draw the line, though?
I don't know.
Hopefully, the Mississippi and West minus California would be the conservative side. I mean, I know you probably like the East Coast, but I got to be honest, I like Iowa. I'm not a big fan of Illinois. I'd like to secure those borders immediately.
Yeah, I'm actually, my goal is to move to Tennessee.
Oh, right on. It's a good state.
Yeah. I can't stand California. I've only visited twice, and
right on.
I don't even know how you afford to live there, and just the conditions and the people running the state are an absolute joke. So
I hear you. Do you have anything, any final message that you'd want to get out there? I know you're busy. You got that snowstorm and everything. So if you have like a final message you want to get out there, now would be the time.
Just don't be afraid of anything. Stand up for your truth. Never waver, never back down. And God bless America.
Right on. Well, Kirstyn, I appreciate you coming on today, taking time out of your schedule.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem.